Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Legends. Let's talk about everything there is to know about this new category of monsters called the Forsaken Monsters. So right now I am on the official SocialPoint forum. If you want to follow along, there's going to be a link in the description. So let's get right into it. There are new monsters coming to the Monster Legends multiverse and they're special. The Forsaken are monsters who, without knowing each other, share something very special, extraordinary power. They also share attributes that are important in the game. So Forsaken monster cells aren't shareable, you can't trade them. Monster Masters will only be able to get one copy of each Forsaken monster, very similar to Warmasters. Elementium and Elemental cells won't work to rank up these unique creatures, again very similar to Warmasters. Only with their own cells will you be able to craft their eggs or bring their power to the next level, which means ranking up. The first Forsaken monsters will appear in the upcoming mazes. The first Forsaken monsters, so are both of the two new monsters that we've had leaks for, are they both Forsaken monsters? So the Hero's Faith and Wicca's Lair, so keep your eyes peeled and get ready for the Forsaken. Alright, so let's just talk about this. This has a very similar kind of formula as do the Warmasters, although the Warmasters you can get orbs, and then with those orbs you can choose to go after any Warmaster. So I guess this kind of mimics more so of Lord Pumpseed. Lord Pumpseed being an exclusive monster that there was only one way to get him, and it was via the maze. Not via the maze, via that terrible marathon race. And then from that marathon maze, you would get cells, and the only way to rank him up is by getting cells. But as of right now, it doesn't appear there's any way to get cells for Lord Pumpseed. But with the Forsaken monsters, we don't know how it's going to be right now. We just know, again, pretty much like Warmasters and like Lord Pumpseed, you can't trade the cells, you can't trade orbs, you can't use Elementium Elemental cells. So they're like on a higher level than Elite. I would say they're very similar to Lord Pumpseed and the Warmasters. So we're gonna have to wait and see how accessible their cells are gonna be, because if we're only able to get cells during this maze and then never else, it's gonna suck because we're not gonna be able to rank them up. But I don't believe that to be the case. I do believe there's gonna be offers for the cells and whatnot, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Like recently, the Elite monsters, their cells started to become available, and they're pretty expensive, right? It costs like 125 gems for 25 cells. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these Forsaken monsters. The emblem looks really, really amazing. I would have liked if these monsters, because these are appearing to be the next, like we originally had the Generals, and then the VIPs, and then the Nemesis, right? And the Warmasters, I would have liked if, like, normally those monsters have, like, a title, right? Like, when we think of VIPs, or when we think of Generals, it's General XYZ, General Thetis, General Darmid. When we think of VIPs, it's like Zyla the Faithful, Hydrock the Forgotten, Scar the Outcast. When we think of the Warmasters, it's Warmaster Gortok, Warmaster this. When we think of Nemesis monsters, it's Sammy the Plague Carrier, Zyron the Ruby. They all have a title. It would have been kind of cool to have like the Forsaken Wildbird the Forsaken, but I don't think SocialPoint is going to be doing that for this. Alright, but yeah, great icon. Let's move on. The interesting thing about, given this, the first Forsaken monster will appear in the upcoming mazes, is that we have some screenshots, and it appears that he's going to be available in the limited time maze, which is very interesting because if the maze starts tomorrow, which I believe from the weekly calendar, we can see from the weekly calendar, it says Saturday, Saturday, it's going to start tomorrow, Sunday. I imagine that the limited edition pathway will open up on Monday. That's what I think. So we have 3 days to collect to be able to use our coins to move during Wildbird. So what I would recommend is if there's a 30% discount on the first day, on the first hour when the maze opens, you might probably want to save your coins because you're going to want to use them towards the limited edition pathway, which, if history serves, it's going to cost around 5,000 maze coins. I think that's what it typically costs, but there is usually a discount during the limited edition pathway. But again, it's hard to know because SocialPoint is introducing this new Forsaken thing, so they might change things up. But yeah, I think it's interesting because now I'm like, okay, if we get him during the limited time pathway, who's going to be the main monster in the maze? Because it's not going to be Wicca, even though that's Wicca's lair. Because again, if we look at the calendar, Wicca doesn't really start until next week, right? Saturday is the Hero's Faith Wildbird, Sunday is the Hero's Faith Wildbird, and then next week is Wicca's lair. So who's going to be the main monster to get? Because we haven't had any sneak peek of anyone else. So I'm a little confused by that. I'm not entirely sure what's gonna happen. Or is it like, I don't know. I really don't know. Or is it like there's gonna be some cells in the limited edition pathway, like maybe 50, and then next week during Wicca's lair there's gonna be another 50? Like, I really have no idea. Or is Wildbird the main monster, and he's also in the limited edition pathway to get extra cells? Again, I have no idea, so it's a little fun to speculate, but we have to wait until tomorrow. We also have this going on where it's pretty much like showing off Wildbird, his traits, right? He has Pierce, he has Stun Immunity, Protect Positive Effects. I think that's Hardened or Tough or something. So yeah, he is the first Forsaken monster. And then this is going to be the screensaver for that, so pretty cool. Wildbird versus Wicca, so I imagine Wicca is going to be the Evil Legion monster. Or yeah, or super villain monster. So, without further ado, I've shown you all this. That's pretty much all we know right now about the Forsaken monsters. Let's talk about the first one, Wildbird. Wildbird in the Hero's Faith Maze. Wildbird was tasked with protecting a garden of golden apples with very valuable golden seeds, which are used as a fuel to fuel a portal between dimensions. The Lord of the Portal chose Wildbird because of his power, but also because of his loyalty. For years, Wildbird guarded the garden restlessly. He never really talked too much He never really got to talk much or see anyone, and he was a bit lonely, but his sense of duty kept him as effective when he started, until he met someone. Her name was Zenobia. Ooh, Zenobia. In the beginning, she simply dropped by the garden's gates, looking lost and asking for directions, but ended up staying there and talking to Wildbird. She was so charming, she reminded him a little of himself. With her beak and her feathers, he fell for her immediately. She seemed to be very interested in what he was keeping in the garden, and he proudly explained everything about the apples and the seeds. It kind of sounds like the Garden of Eve story, and how it was his duty to guard them. He wanted to impress her, and at least apparently. It seemed to work, because the next day she was back. Zenobia kept returning to talk to him for weeks on end. Wildbird was deeply in love with her, but then one day she said, "You know, I can't stay here anymore. I've gotten nothing and I'm earning nothing while I'm here. I want to go somewhere. Why don't you come with me? We could take a bunch of the golden seeds you're protecting and live on them for the rest of our lives." Wildbird was in shock. Zenobia was asking him not only to abandon his duty, but also to actively portray his lord and steal from him. Betray his lord and steal from him. "Are you crazy? I can't do that. Duty is everything to me," he said. "Everything. I thought we had something good here. Come on, show me what you got. Show me the garden. I can do the dirty work myself if you can't bring yourself to do it." Oh, that's Zenobia. In the end, she convinced him to let her into the garden. He opened the gates for her and allowed her to take everything she wanted. He didn't even want to look, so he just waited outside and waited, and he waited. And he turned around and entered the garden to check what was taking Zenobia so long, but she wasn't there. There was only a note that said, "I'm sorry." She had escaped with the golden seeds, but without him. He was forsaken. So every monster is going to have some sort of story like this. He then understood why she had shown all the interest in the garden from the beginning. She wasn't lost. She knew that she knew what was in there from the very beginning. Wildbird felt like his entire future was meaningless. He was alone again, and he couldn't stay at his lord's service after having betrayed him. He had all his power and nothing to do with it. No job, nobody to protect, but at the same time he realized he could do anything. He could start fresh, serving no one but himself. He was free to travel and free to meet other monsters. It's a new day, it's a new life for Wildbird. Multiverse of the Monster Legends, are you ready for him? So let's get into the Wildbird analysis. Starting off with the stats. Life 38,906. In the Thunder category, this is the 4th highest life stat. There are 4 monsters that have a higher life stat than him, but this is the 4th highest life stat. So Francine Frank currently dominates the Thunder category with a life stat of 43,128. Then is Inquisitor Fullman with 42,223. And then it's Warmaster Barbarian Ulner tied with 41,319. And now we have Wildbird. So crazy high life stat for a monster that isn't even a tank, right? Francine Frank, Inquisitor Fullman, Warmaster Barbarian, all tanks. Ulner is the only monster that has a higher life stat that is an attacker, so very, very high life stat. Now what's really interesting is the power stat. This is by far one of the strongest monsters in the game, 3,729. When we talk about every single monster in the game, it's the 3rd highest stat. The monster with the highest stat is Rador with 3,850. But I mean, Rador doesn't even matter. Next up is Hyperia with 3,762. Although Hyperia also, I would say, doesn't really matter. Then we have Wildbird tied with Zenobia, and I think there might be another monster. But yeah, both Zenobia and Wildbird, they have 3,729. Incredible high power stat. Incredible. Very incredible. And then we have a speed stat of 3,509, which is super fast. Also in the Thunder category, it is the 5th highest. Mercurius still dominates with 3,663. Then is Hornet with 3,608. then Neobuki with 3553, Volta with 3542, and then it's Wildbird, Hydra the Bullcaster, and Thorder, all tied with 3509. So incredible stats. And then for his traits, considering he's a new monster, considering he's a Forsaken monster, he has evolving traits. So he starts the game off with Hardened, and then at rank 1 you get Pierce. You start the game off with Pierce. Oh my goodness, that is great. So the first monster to introduce Pierce was Zizania, and this kind of tends to happen when new monsters are introduced with a new ability. They're not going to be as good as future monsters, right? So I think Wildbird having Status Caster Pierce at rank 1 is awesome, because then you get to fully utilize it. And the way I see Pierce is definitely game changing. It's definitely meta breaking. The problem is that a monster to use Pierce effectively, it has to have the right skills. So Zizania is a pretty good attacker, pretty great monster, but I think Wildbird takes it to a whole new level, considering he is a later monster, and now there's like a better skills that go along with it. The reason Pierce is so groundbreaking in my personal opinion, and I talked about this in my previous video, is that Pierce essentially makes it like the good old days, where you didn't have to worry about taunt, mega taunt, 100% life shields, skill mirror, evasion. Like seriously, now there's monsters that start the game off with evasion and skill mirror for the whole team. If there's a taunt monster, your single attacks are targeted towards that monster, even though you have to kill someone else. You really want to kill that Ragnarök, but that Brutalis is in the way, so all of your single attacks are going towards that Brutalis. Oh wait, you're facing a Dunraw. Now when you do an AoE skill, the Dunraw is going to absorb it all, but you really want to attack and finish off the enemy monster. The enemy monsters have a shield, but with Pierce, like, you ignore the shield. A monster can have 100 HP left in a billion K shield, and it doesn't matter. When you have Pierce, you only damage the initial life, so if the initial life drops to 0, the monster dies. So when a monster has Pierce, it's like going back to the good old days where you didn't have to worry about all the positive effects the enemy monster may have, which is what's so amazing about Pierce and why it's so groundbreaking. But again, it's just going to take the right monster to have the right skills. Like imagine a Pierce Trade Disable, right? Which I believe actually Nitro Blaster has, except Nitro Blaster, it's a little hard to use it. Plus you need to have him ranked up, the post-human. So it's only a matter of time before a monster has it like as a regular basic everyday skill. But yeah, going back to Wildbird, Status Caster Pierce at rank 1. I think that'll be doable for most players. Again, we don't really know how difficult it's going to be to get monsters out or anything. We'll find out tomorrow, but I think that'll be doable. At rank 3, you get Area Stun Immunity, so that's just super helpful, your whole team being immune to stun. Then you can partner it up with a Necromancer, now your whole team is immune to Possession and Stun. Like, various good reasons why Area Stun Immunity is awesome. And then at rank 5, which I think we're going to be seeing more of with monsters, is Protect Positive Effects, especially since so many monsters nowadays can just clear. Having Protect Positive Effects protects all of your abilities, right? It'll protect your Pierce. It'll protect anything else you give yourself. Like this monster can actually give himself evasion. If you have life regen or anything, it's Protect Positive Effect is awesome. Alright, moving on, in terms of relics, this monster can hold the Sword Relic. So, great for an attacker. Can do extra damage output. Can put a Jakugan Sword. Deals extra damage. The Essence. This can heal your whole team. Again, this monster's tanky. He has a pretty tanky life. You can do Revival Lessons. If he dies, he comes back from the dead. So, all around, great relics, I think. In terms of bugs, he's in the families, the superheroes, and the winged. So with that being said, let's talk about the skills. Skills group 1 isn't really worth talking about too much. Let's see, we have Somersault Jump, Heavy Thunder Damage, You're Outnumbered, Heavy Special Damage, Grass Tastes Bad, Moderate Thunder Damage to all enemies. So the first two are 50 damage, Thunder and Special based, with a 20 stamina cost on a 1-turn cooldown. The second skill does 2 30 damage attacks to an enemy monster, and then 30 residual to the allies. So one monster gets hits with 60 damage essentially, and the allies with 30. It's actually quite powerful when you look at it, and it only costs 25 stamina and a 1-turn cooldown, but I don't think it's really going to be worth running. So on to skills group 2 we go. Show Me What You Got applies damage boost to itself, precision to itself, and damage mirror to itself. 2-turn cooldown, 0 damage. It's a setup skill. Again, if you have a rank 5 and you have Protect Positive Effect, the enemy is going to have trouble getting rid of that boost, that increased accuracy, and the damage mirror. So that being said, I don't think most players are going to get this monster ranked 5, and even then, I think there's better skills you can utilize than this setup skill. The Flesh Curtains deals very heavy special damage to one enemy, applies shock to one enemy, applies sunburn to one enemy, requires cooldown. So 60 damage on a 2-turn cooldown, 25 stamina cost, heavy special damage, shock, and sunburn. That's quite powerful for a single skill. Again, if you have this monster at rank 1, even if there's a Dunraw, even if there's a Corellis Brutalis, it doesn't matter. You can literally attack whoever you want, and you can shock the enemy monster, which will prevent extra turn skills. You can sunburn the enemy monster, and you can target whoever you want. So this is good, like, even for example, if you were facing a, I don't know, like a Thalassa, right? By applying shock, you'd be able to prevent her from doing her extra turn skills. So quite cool, quite cool. Get Swifty. This is probably one of my more favorite skills, especially if you have this monster unranked. So this skill applies Thunder Weakness to enemies. It gives you an extra turn, and you give yourself Pierce. And you get to keep the Pierce. So I'm assuming Pierce will last for 3 turns. So even if you don't have this monster rank 1, you still have the capability of using any skill you want to. If you don't face a Megaton monster, if you're facing Brutalis, the fact that you can Thunder Weakness everyone, give yourself an extra turn, then Pierce, that is awesome, because then you'll be able to attack whoever you want and use a Thunder-based attack, and it'll be even more powerful because everyone has Thunder Weakness. Right? That's awesome. I love this. I think Get Swifty, especially if you have this monster unranked, it's going to be awesome. Even if you have this monster ranked, it still could be worth using in case you need to reapply the Pierce. Also because it gives an extra turn, so that resets, or that lowers the cooldown on another skill. You just got to be careful for anticipation monsters, but we can talk about that in a bit. Tier 3 skills, we have Time for Action, deals moderate thunder damage to enemies, applies shock to enemies. So again, if you do Get Swifty and then Time for Action, this is essentially a 60 damage AoE. That also shocks the enemy, which again prevents extra turns, which is awesome. Against the console, deals moderate special damage to enemies, applies Sunburn to enemies. So what I like about this monster is that you have a thunder-based attack and then a special-based attack. So if you don't want to run the shock skill, you can run the Sunburn skill that also deals special damage. We have Gubba Nub Nub Do Raka, which applies evasion to itself, increases self-max stamina, gives 100% of stamina to itself. So when I first saw this skill, I was like, okay, this monster, there's a reason he has this. There's a reason he's going to have this, and I was right. And you see that in tier 4 skills. So he gives himself evasion, which again, if you have this monster at rank 5, that becomes even better because this monster basically is not going to be attacked and you have a guaranteed turn in, which is awesome. You give yourself, increases your max stamina, so I'm assuming it's going to double your max stamina. It says increase the max stamina, I'm assuming that's double. And then you give 100% of your stamina back, so you're back to your full stamina. Yeah, it's essentially a way to have stamina and not be attacked. And again, going to tier 4 skills, look at that skill. You appear to be dying. Removes all negative effects from itself, applies Pierce, deals insane thunder damage. Insane being 80 thunder-based damage. 204 stamina cost. Oh my gosh, if you want to use this monster without having to run the previous skill, you're going to need like mutant stamina runes. So now there's a reason for mutant stamina, specifically strength stamina runes. Yeah, so that's kind of crazy. You can also partner this monster up with, for example, a Warmaster Thalassa. Maybe in the future there'll be relics that increases team stamina. But yeah, Warmaster Thalassa would be a good one, right? Double stamina from the get-go. Appear to be dying, you'll have an 80 damage direct attack to someone. If you run Get Swifty, which applies Thunder Weakness, and then you appear to be dying, that is 120 damage to a single enemy monster. So definitely powerful. It also has no cooldown, so even if you were to get hit with CDA at the start of the battle, that wouldn't even matter to you. And then this skill is incredible because even if you got hit with a Total Blind, even if you had Sunburn, Daze, even if you had all this negative accuracy, even if you had total damage reduction, Sunburn, anything you had, the cool thing about You Appear to be Dying is that first you remove all your negative effect, all that is cleansed, and then you give yourself Pierce, so even if you didn't have Pierce, now you do, and then that insane thunder damage will just obliterate whoever you want. That's great. It's great, but it has a high cost. And I feel like this, of course, because he's the first Forsaken monster, I fear that future Forsaken monster will be way better, because anytime a new monster gets introduced, it's kind of crazy what some of their skills will have. Like when you look at Crowdson has a Mega Freeze that costs like 250 stamina, some crazy amounts. And now we have like regular monsters that can easily Mega Freeze. Warmaster Thalassa has like 20 Mega Freeze skills. It's insane. AoE Mega Freeze. So yeah, You Appear to be dying. I fear like, not fear, I feel like future Forsaken monsters will have similar skills. Like I can only imagine the Fire Forsaken monster having some 80 damage spammable skill. Maybe the stamina cost will be down to 80 or less, so that's interesting to see, but definitely a powerful skill. Bag of Squanch deals very heavy thunder damage to one enemy, applies Mega Stun to one enemy, requires cooldown. The reason this skill is so amazing is because, again, at rank 1, you have Status Caster Pierce. So, if you have this monster, well, I'm assuming that's a rank 2 skill, so at rank 2, you'll have your Status Caster Pierce, and you can literally Mega Stun whoever you want like without any downside, right? You have Pierce. Again, if there's a Brutalis, doesn't matter. You can target that Ragnarök and try to pierce him. Or sorry, try to Mega Stun him. You can literally target whoever you want. The only thing that would make this better is if you somehow had increased accuracy. So I don't know, combined with the Charizard, we have True Vision, then that Mega Stun lands for sure. But I mean, this is straightforward, right? Having Pierce, having Mega Stun is awesome. Even if you have, I was gonna say, even if you had this monster unranked, you could use Pierce, or you could use Get Swifty, but I guess what I should say is, because you won't have that skill until you're ranked up, even if the enemy goes first and gets rid of your Pierce, right? They cleanse you, your Pierce is gone, you can do Get Swifty, give yourself the Pierce back, and then be able to do Bag of Squanch, which is why Get Swifty is a pretty great skill, regardless of whether or not this monster is ranked or not. So I like that. And again, this is what I was saying, where like, as the meta continues, Pierce is definitely going to become a lot more important, and then we're going to see a lot more monsters with single deny, an AoE deny. Yeah, it's just bound to happen. So 30 stamina cost surprised me for what it does. 60 damage is powerful. If you can do Get Swifty and then do Bag of Squanch, well, that's going to be 90 damage and a Mega Stun. Crazy stuff. Tammy's Betrayal deals moderate special damage to an enemy, gives 1 extra turn, applies evasion to itself, applies guard down to all enemies. That is a pretty great skill. Tammy's Betrayal should be like Zenobia's Betrayal. So Tammy's Betrayal, this is interesting because I'm assuming that evasion is going to last for 2 turns. So even if there's an anticipation monster which would counter you because you give yourself an extra turn, I feel like that evasion will protect you, so you're good to go, and then the guard down makes your attacks do not miss. So if you can do Tammy's Betrayal and land the guard down, next when you do Bag of Squanch, you are going to be landing that Mega Stun on whoever you landed the guard down to. Or you can do You Appear to Be Dying if you have the stamina for it and just like obliterate the enemy monster. It's crazy stuff. And then the last and final skill is essentially a combination of the previous skills. We have Wubba Lubba Dub Dub, which deals heavy special damage to all enemies, applies shock and sunburn to all enemies, 45 damage, 30 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown. The cool thing about this is that it shocks and sunburns. It's heavy special damage. I personally wish it would have been thunder damage, especially because you can synergize with the Get Swifty. And again, even if there was a Dunraw, a Mephisto, someone with Megaton on the game, it wouldn't matter because you can do Get Swifty to apply the Thunder weakness. Even if that Dunraw absorbs the Thunder weakness, that's fine. Your extra turn and then your Pierce. When you do Wubba Lubba, it'll literally hit everyone, not just the Dunraw, because you have Pierce. So everyone will get hit with a Sunburn, everyone will get hit with a Shock. And then yeah, you have synergy, right? You have an extra turn skill here. You have 2 extra turn skills. So a lot of his skills are 2 turn cooldowns, 3 turn cooldowns. It's very easy for you to cycle. I'm pretty impressed with this monster. He's a Forsaken monster. He's the first Forsaken monster. I just love the Pierce mechanic, and I'm glad that this monster at least gets to utilize it a lot more. Again, we don't really know too much about this monster in terms of how easy he's going to be to get, how difficult he's going to be to get, how is he going to perform in the current meta, especially if most players can't rank him up. But then it also depends on like your league and everything. So I imagine he's going to be quite an interesting, cool monster to use. His ultimate attack is I am a Phoenix Person. I am Phoenix Person. Deals very heavy metal damage to enemies. Oh, look at that. This Thunder monster suddenly has a metal-based AoE. Ultimate. Applies Nanovirus to all enemies, meaning they won't be able to apply any positive effects, and applies Stun to all enemies. And again, the cool thing about this ultimate is if you ever were to have your ultimate, you can literally use Get Swifty really quickly, right, to give yourself Pierce. So now you guarantee land the Nanovirus, the Stun, or not guaranteed, but if the enemy and monster had evasion and they would normally block it, nope. Nanovirus, Stun, everything. Or you can do Tammy's Betrayal to give yourself that extra turn, give yourself that evasion, protect yourself, guard down whoever you can, then get Swifty, and then I am Phoenix Person so you can stun everyone. So overall, I really like the monster. He's quite powerful. His traits are great. The bug seasons I think are great. His relics are really great. He's going to be quite formidable. Looking forward to seeing this monster. In terms of how good is he unranked, at least we can still use a Pierce mechanic because of Get Swifty, so I really like that skill. You have great AoE skills to use, right? Time for action against the console. I don't really see people using the evasion max stamina skill if this monster's unranked, so you have other skills to choose from unranked. And then You Appear to Be Dying. I wonder how many players are actually going to be able to utilize it. Again, if you partner this monster up with a ffilayyy, then it definitely becomes usable. If this monster's rank 5, you can partner up with Elvira, and then you have evasion, and then you can just wait your turn and just like deal massive damage to the enemy. So it's going to be interesting to see. I can definitely see players getting them at rank 5 using some sort of like mechanic with Remntar and Wildbird. That way you can't take any damage from special based attacks, and then you have skill mirror and your protect positive effect protecting you. You can't be stunned as well. And then just relying on the AoEs, I can see Elvira and Wildbird as defense on for players that can get them ring 5 for the same reason, evasion and then protect positive effects, and then just waiting your turn so Wildbird can do something to the enemy. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of comps people come up with. I can see Ragnarök, Wildbird, and Remntar or Elvira, right? You get a random status caster. If they die, one, he has the essence to resurrect, Ragnarök can resurrect. Of course, Wormlad and Wildbird, like, they can be deadly together with the protect positive effects, being able to do restore the dream. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of team comps we see. Like, I definitely see him being a great defense meta base. So it's going to be interesting to see. And let's see. I think that's pretty much all we have for today. So, like I said, this event is going to start tomorrow. So, I just kind of wanted to get this video to get my thoughts out there before he's officially released. But everyone, welcome the brand new Forsaken monsters. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this new category of monsters? Are you worried? Are you scared? What are you thinking? Comments. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much, and I will see you all next time.